company here on Spatial IO. We meet here every Wednesday to talk about various technology-related topics. And today we're going to be talking about virtual filming technology. And I'd like to hand it over to Chris, who's going to start us off with a introduction to probably one of the most important, I think, or probably the first feature-length film that was created with motion capture. So go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, hey, I just have to say that the movie that we're watching here, or basically we see behind the scenes of the adventures of Tintin, and that is 12 years ago, 13 years ago, that film. And it was not the first one that was solely done in motion capturing, but it was for sure one of the movies that relied on motion capturing a lot. And last week we talked about the strike in Hollywood and what that means to the people. And well, so we thought from the Virtual Film Company that it would be a good idea to have a look on what are the new possibilities in Hollywood and what can the people do while everything is on strike. Everyone is on strike, nothing gets produced. And so we thought, like, let's see how digital production is working today. And the first thing by looking at Tintin is to have a short look back. And we can see this very nice scene here where the actors are sitting on this table that gets rocked by the set workers here. And that is on the ship where Captain Haddock is talking, I think, to Tim. And we can see all the setups here. We see that this is a quite big stage. We can see that Steven Spielberg is operating the virtual camera, basically, with that thing in his hand. That is basically the camera that he's using. He can direct the shot. He can zoom in and out, and the position of this device is tracked in 3D space, so that he can create the digital image in real time. And that's the point. That was for sure one of the novelties here with Tintin, that the technology was fast enough at that time so that you could do all these shootings like in a live situation, right? Actors are just directly playing with each other, and you have also at the same time a live preview, at least, right? You can see the 3D characters on monitors. You can have also some visual effects in there already. For us, we just see what's happening on the real stage here. And we can see that this technology at that time was still expensive and a lot of work. And we see all the devices that people are using, helmet, the motion capture suit. Spielberg is using his virtual camera device that looks really, really amazing. And here we can see on the monitors the previs. On the left-hand side, we can see, zooming in, great. We can see the rendered result. The actors are acting on stage. And that was quite not new, but it was a new possibility at that you could have some people act in motion capture suits and you had a very good quality previs already on screen. So for a director like Steven Spielberg, that was for sure a great opportunity to use his skills in storytelling.
Right. And that was 2011, I believe. And
yeah,
I believe it was actually the first feature film that was created using motion capture. I think that's one of the things about this particular film.
Yeah, we have to narrow it down. In my opinion, it's probably the first feature film where it's almost just using motion capture, because we had a lot of motion capturing already before in visual effects in movies.
Right, but it's known as the film that the first film that was created using motion capture. So yes, granted, motion capture was used previously, but this film is, again, apparently, that's one of the things it's known for, is the fact that it
Solely
it was
done with
all
motion
motion
capture.
capture, right? Yeah.
It's all
I
motion
mean,
capture,
the whole
completely done in motion.
Tintin thing is interesting to me. This is sort of a sidebar, perhaps, or not perhaps, but it is, in that growing up, I was a big fan of Tintin, and couldn't get enough of Tintin comics. And, that was when they were finally out in color. But, I don't know if people know that, and we've talked about this here on the show before. We've talked about virtual influences, but that was really what Tintin was created as, was a virtual influencer, because, he, for example, went to China and made commentary about China and, the Japanese invasion.
Right.
And in fact, he came here to America and made
Yeah.
commentary about America, which, and surprisingly enough, that was all run out of a very conservative newspaper,
Yeah.
which is
So
interesting.
Right.
So
to comment back about this piece, Chris, that we just watched, one of the things that I really loved about it was seeing Steven Spielberg have fun. You could just see how happy he was working with that camera. It was like, I don't want to say he was playing with a toy, but he just had that excitement when he was shooting the scene, and you could really see how into it he was. And from being on one of his film sets, Minority Report, back in the day, I mean, one of the things that stands out to me with Spielberg is just the energy of his sets and the way the crew works. I've never seen one that functioned at such a high level of efficiency, and just everybody on there was into it and working. And that's what you could see in this set right here, is just how into it everybody was. And yeah, it's new technology, but still just the passion with filmmaking. I mean, this is amazing. And it's 11 years ago, and now what we're doing, I love looking back at this stuff to reference kind of where we're going right now, as this was super high level, and now you could do this at home, or you could do this with an independent production.
Yeah, I mean, we will come to that for sure. This is a very good starting point, just to explain what was
Yeah.
possible at that time, right?
Right.
And how much effort you had to put into that.
Cut. So, guys, Carl Welcome to the Virtual Film Company. Today we're going to be talking about virtual filming technology and the democratization of filmmaking through this technology. We meet here on Spatial every week to talk about related topics like this, and be sure to visit our YouTube channel at Virtual Film Company for past broadcasts. And so we're going to start off today by looking at a Steven Spielberg production that basically is known as one of the first films to use mocap. And I'm going to hand it over to Chris. Chris.
Right. Great to be back here. And yeah, I mean, just to think about shortly what we did last week, we were talking with Brian. It was a great talk about the strike in Hollywood. And so at the moment, things that we see here on screen are not happening. There's no shooting. There's nothing going on. And we were thinking about, hey, what topic would we talk about? We should talk about what's possible today to be produced with virtual reality, for example, technology, virtual technologies in filmmaking in this case. And just to have some starting point, I thought that this production that we see here on the screen, The Adventures of Tintin, that this is a very interesting starting point for us. John mentioned that already. It is basically known as the film that was basically just using motion capturing technology, right? We saw motion capturing before in movies for visual effects, but in this production here, as we can see it, there is everything just done in motion capturing. It's a complete 3D animated environment. We can see Steven Spielberg now here. He's holding the virtual camera, and we see the actors, how they are sitting on a table that gets rocked by the set workers that's playing on a ship. And they are wearing those very expensive and special motion capturing suits, and also helmets with cameras on that are tracking their expressions in their faces, and so on and so on. All these data that we see here that is captured at the moment is then feeded into computers, and they are rendering in real time the whole scenery, the animated figures, so that Spielberg can see the results in real time. And that was 12 years ago, quite a big thing still. So this type of production at that time was really costly, and you can imagine Steven Spielberg is not doing small productions. He did that production in New Zealand, and one of the biggest visual effects companies did all the rendering for them. Yeah, so what as a starting
it's an amazing
point,
job.
it is
Amazing.
definitely. And as a starting point, we can take this as the high level, basically, to say, well, that's what you needed at that time to make a production like that. And now we will see today, is that possible with a small team, with not a high budget? Can we do that in our own offices? Would that be maybe a possibility for people that are, well, not able to produce at the moment because Hollywood is on strike, right? So what technologies did we see? We saw motion capturing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. And to me, man, to see how happy Steven Spielberg was, he was like a kid in a candy store. You could just see him smiling, and was just so into, like, wow, we're doing this right now. And you could just see the excitement and just kind of like, wow, this is where we're at with technology. he's an innovator with that. I mean, remember when Jaws wouldn't work? I mean, this is the guy who decided, hey, we need to make sound effects like the sharks hitting the boat, and just kind of figuring out ways to going about doing things. And then now, obviously, he probably did a Jurassic Park before this one, and seeing everything that would need to go into those productions, and then to see now that the level that he's at, the way the boat was moving, and then everything's moving behind, and to have that kind of power with the camera, it's mind-blowing, and this is you got to look at it as this is as high level of production you get at that time. Steven Spielberg production really showcasing these new technologies that had just come out, and it's amazing that a decade later of where we're at present day, powerful.
Definitely.
Right. Well, I don't think we're actually that far ahead in some respects other than cost, and that's always going to drop. So if you look at the screen here, we have the Rococo company that has been in motion capture for some time now. They make a full suit, they make gloves, they make facial capture, which also unfortunately works with the iPhone, and we'll talk about this later, but I'm an Android person, and I've regretted being an Android person more than once in this whole motion capture arena, because iPhone definitely seems to be the winner there. But, basically what's happening here is that, we've seen motion capture gear from full motion capture suits like Rococo sells for a package that ranges for about $3,500, which is actually very cheap, because if you look back at the days when Spielberg did his stuff, motion capture was not very mature, and it cost a lot more to get into that. But today what we're finding, and Chris is going to talk about this more, is the ability to get a motion capture suit. And there are cheaper suits. There are, in fact, motion capture kits that have been made specifically for some of the virtual platforms such as VR chat that are under $300. But if one wants full motion capture, one needs to be looking at one of these suits. And so one of the cool things Rococo has done is that they obviously have pipelines into programs like Unreal, but they also now have pipelines into other programs. And this one, I believe, is VR chat. So you can see here, this is a character on the, so it was very brief, but so, I mean, the thing that you can see here, we're having a little bit of a slowdown problem here. Hopefully this winds up soon, but you can see that each one of these characters is a person. Oh, this isn't great. Let's try to find something here that's better than this. But I mean, the idea here is that the person in the suit, this person here, you can see he's going through motions which are then translated into a character, which saves endless time when it comes to animating by hand, or even animating using a program like iClone, where you can get the basic animation right, but you have to spend a lot of time tweaking the animation and going through it. With the motion capture suit, they're getting better and better, to the point that you can now actually have multiple actors in the same space, all wearing a motion capture suit, and you can capture these actors going through their lines or whatever, and then export it to Unreal. So any thoughts on this, or should we just go to the next video?
I mean, this is powerful to see what you can do, what you can be. Again, I mean, to me, when I'm watching this stuff, it's just the video game world and the real world coming together with these capabilities to being able to be these other characters, be a different version of yourself, go into an environment. And, to me, that's what I kind of see this as. It's almost like in video games, you get to pick what you want to look like, what you want to do. And this kind of gives you that ability that now, instead of just having a face on, like, this is amazing. Walt Disney would be so impressed. I mean, what you're seeing right here, when I see it, it's just like, how much work would that have been like years ago? And it's mind-blowing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing, is that this dude is just sitting there, with the suit on, going through these motions and then applying them to the character. But, as you can see here, there are some tweaks that need to be made. So one does need to have, some technical skills to operate these things. So shall we move on to the next video? Or Chris, did you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, just to add on that, you see how a person is operating basically this editing timeline there on the video. We see that also in the last years, and today with the addition of artificial intelligence, we have more and more possibilities to, let's say, streamline this workflow. When you started to use motion capturing many years ago, 10, 15 years ago, there was a lot of data that had to be cleaned, that was not that clean that you could use it. So a lot of processing was necessary. Today, the software is that good that you can really use it directly when you captured it. Artificial intelligence is having a look on it, and it's smoothing it, for example. And it's more like editing a film in the end, right? You have the motion data and you can blend it. You can blend different motions into each other and so on and so on. It's a very, very easy workflow, or it's getting to be a more easy workflow, right? So in that case, also that is democratizing the whole area, right? More people that are not really specialists just in motion capturing and have a lot of experience in that can handle this. Still, Rococo is one of the more expensive products on the market, but it's a very good one. But again, we see more possibilities, and they're getting easier.
No,
Quiet
definitely,
on the set.
definitely.
Quiet on the set. Like, for those of us that have been on a movie set, they would always try to get the set as quiet as possible, and stuff, but they would drive people crazy if a cell phone went off on a set when they were filming. That's costing them a lot of money because the take is essentially dead. So yeah, I agree. It's just becoming more efficient for sure, and what we can do is powerful technology.
Well, this is a good example on the screen here, I think, of, what you were talking about, Chris, and it's something that, we'll probably talk about further in other discussions. But, before we move on to the next slide, this image depicts a person in the mocap suit, the Rococo mocap suit, with a Quest headset on, then, translating that into the image or the character on the Rococo software, which then translates the mocap to a character in VR chat. And so, this VR chat character now all of a sudden has complete control over their movement, which, is pretty amazing for people that are into things like dancing and,
Absolutely.
But, even putting together a film, I think places like VR Chat and Neos, the quality is getting so good that, both avatars and backdrops, and, if you incorporate this kind of mocap into it, no end to the possibilities. So should we move to the next slide?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. And so Chris, You're going to have to tell us more about this. This is MetaHumans.
Right. Okay. So this is a very interesting example that is quite new. So company called JS Films, great guy who is working with Unreal for quite a while now, did an invention, and we can see that on the screen here. He invented a helmet, and he mounted onto this helmet something like a holder for an iPhone. With this iPhone, you now have a special software directly for Unreal Engine. And with this software, you can motion capture your facial expressions. We saw that already on the Tintin movie. And the quality of that motion capturing is really, really, really high and professional. And the only thing that you need for that is the Unreal Engine that is free, the software part for the Unreal Engine that is free, your iPhone, well, and something that holds your iPhone. And in this case, JS Films, well, he created his helmet and mounted something on it to keep the iPhone in front of your face. And the quality in result, as you can see it on the finished rendering there, is really, really good. And we can see how that scene was made. Just two actors, nothing more. Everything is recorded into the app automatically. And then you can render it out in Unreal Engine. You could also have that in real time, but that is still quite a lot of data to process. And the result, using, for example, MetaHumans, that's also a free tool inside of Unreal Engine in this case, gives you a very believable result. And again, when we think back to Tintin and big VFX companies, now a small company, a one-man company with some ideas and passion and some good actors can create this. And this time jump was 10, 12 years.
I have a question here. So I am seeing the cameras on the face, but then it looks like the cameras are held far enough away that the way we're watching these shots, it does look like they're filming from another angle on top of those two iPhones. It looks like they're shooting from at least two other angles that they're cutting from.
No, those cameras are not shooting film, Eric. They're capturing facial expressions and
correct
movements. And there's other cameras capturing. Right.
No, there's virtual cameras in there that are capturing the rest.
Okay.
Only reason for those physical cameras is to capture the facial movement. That's the only reason.
That's the point.
Chris,
so we
sorry,
can. No problem. We can see that he's using those two iPhones for mainly the face and facial expressions. They also have quite, let's say, cheap motion capturing devices, because we can see that the movement of the body, of the hands, and all that is also captured. Those devices today are, well, not that expensive anymore, $300-400, and you can get a quite good setup. We saw Rococo, that is more $4,000 and more dollars. So we have quite a big range now between expensive and not so expensive setups. And on top of those capturing systems, we have now the iPhone that takes care about the whole facial expression in detail. So the other cameras that we see here, the cameras that are filming the two persons basically that we see in the rendered result, those cameras are purely virtual. All that is happening inside of the Unreal Engine, and those cameras are not real. They are placed by someone, they are moved by someone or not, or they are programmed, no problem at all. The most important thing here for us is, how did they get the motion data from those two actors into the 3D engine. And I think it looks very convincing, and that's why probably the question is coming up, well, was there another camera? Because it looks so real that you might think like this is a real scene. And again, this is just almost for free. I mean, except of an iPhone that is not free, and the helmet is not for free, and the $400 for the motion capturing device. But again, we are not talking about thousands or millions. And well, it's a game changer in my opinion.
No, definitely. It's, being able to, the price is definitely going down. Rococo has a similar setup where you mount, of course, an iPhone and not an Android. As I've said, that's a sore point. And a couple of years ago, I bought a facial capture extension plug-in, whatever, for iClone, and that was $800 just for that. And I just checked with Rococo, and they want $695 for their little connector, and of course $200 I think for the mount to hold it to your head. But as you say, Chris, I mean, one can be imaginative, and there are some apps out there that I've seen that do a good job of facial capture. There are also, and Rococo is one of them, but there are other companies that allow you to do motion capture in front of a webcam and apply that motion capture then to another character. So, the price is coming down, the technology is becoming more usable. And, I think it's really to the point that one is not going to be able to tell the difference. And this is maybe a good time to move to the slide that, so we have Unreal, of course, which is, nice because it's free, and a lot of things associated with Unreal are free. But one of the products, and, I will get into arguments about this product with people that use MetaHumans and Unreal, but to be honest, I've used this product now for 17 years, and I've often wondered why it isn't or hasn't been acquired by one of the large companies out there, because in many respects this is MetaHumans as well. So this is Real Illusions character creator, and they have something called Real Skin, which basically enables you to do the same thing. And you can apply expressions, you can apply all kinds of things. And so ultimately the question to me becomes why do we even actually need human actors when we can do all of this?
We should get Brian back in this case.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
No, every time I get it, John. John is definitely pro AI. But I think that there's still room for actors with the way they bring it to the table, their expressions, their character. It's, we can create things, and that's when you see these animations, which you have an acting character playing just a voiceover. Now this actor gets to show the body movements, brings a lot more to the table with this motion capture. So I don't think we're there yet, John, to where like the actor's going to get replaced. As ready as you are for that to happen.
Well, in this case,
go ahead, Chris.
Sorry. The point is, think about back to this Tintin movie with Steven Spielberg, right? We saw great actors there, and those people will always bring something to the table. And the technology that we have here, even if those 3D characters look really great, but expression right? We are capturing expression because humans have this great expression, right? They can create something with it. They can tell stories with the face expression, right? Fear, anger, hate, love, whatever, right? And sure, we can train today probably artificial intelligence to mimic that, right? But it's just doing well. It's just looking at those expressions and tries to recreate them. But they're still coming from human beings. The great actor, great actress will still be needed, in my opinion. There is no way that, we won't see any human interaction anymore. Yeah, it will be done probably, but I think people love to see what other people create. And even if you don't see them, I mean, think back to Tom Hanks in Polar Express, right? It was Tom Hanks. You could recognize him, his right, his movement and stuff. So you had the feeling that, okay, yeah, this is a Tom Hanks movie. And if you don't have that anymore, well, I'm not sure. So, well, we will see what's happening, and we can make a bet, John. What will be better? Which movies will be more successful with more human interaction or without?
Well, I think it's going to come to a point, though, where, I mean, if you look at the screen right now, we have a character capable of, basically all the expressions that a human is capable of. And I think, where the question arises, Chris, is when someone watches a movie and can't tell the difference. I mean, I expect there to be an outcry, and people, if you watch a movie, there's going to be a label that this person isn't real with a big pointer. I mean, that would be totally ridiculous, but that would be what some people would want.
Well,
so anyway,
there's something said about an actor. Let's say you're trying to capture a specific emotion of a scene. This AI, you can have him capture maybe very complex anxiety, and the actor just can't hit it. And then this can hit it. So sometimes, I think that's the difference between a really great actor is he can deliver on multiple levels. Like seeing Jack Nicholson, he just moved through like 3 different characters when I seen him play this character on Something's Gotta Give. And I was truly blown away as like, oh, this is an Oscar-winning actor that they're not exactly sure on the final cut of which actor they're going to have play the person. So he played literally 3 versions of himself. And there's not a lot of people that necessarily can do that with delivering all their lines. So, yeah, I see your point.
Well, one of the other things that this does, in my opinion, is that it allows people that are perhaps good actors and, people that have good voices and, whatever, that were prevented from getting into acting because they either, didn't have the looks or, whatever there was, right? And so this enables one to assume the identity of anything. I mean, if you wanted to act as a banana, you could. If you, I mean, I think it just opens up endless possibilities. It also gets rid of ageism, where, a lot of actors and actresses have managed to continue their careers, but a lot haven't, because that's not what people wanted. They wanted them to be timeless, and perhaps this is a way for them to be timeless. But anyways, we should move on to the next slide unless there's any more on this.
No, go
So the next slide is, I think this is another good example of innovation here. And Chris, if you want to take this one away as soon as it starts playing, but this is an example of, what they're calling it here, zero or a virtual production at home at zero cost, which I mean, everyone I think is into zero cost. And
Well, yeah, zero. Okay. If the costs are here, the main point, I don't know. I think what is really interesting with this example is that one person more or less did a comparison, in my opinion. He did not advertise it like that, right? But he was thinking like, okay, now that we do have something like Midjourney or Stable Diffusion, whatever, so generative AI art, why not taking a nice sequence from Guardians of the Galaxy, that is definitely a big hit movie, and try to do a little sequence, just some seconds, and edit it in there and try to make it as believable as it could be a part of the movie. So today we have the technology called virtual production, so-called volume studios. Basically, those normally have big LED screens in the background. Those LED screens are showing virtual worlds,
LED walls,
like science fiction worlds, right? And here is a person who hasn't got the money for a giant LED screen, but he's got a nice big television. And he's got himself who can act. And here we see his setup, basically, right? He generated that background picture that looks like it could be from Guardians of the Galaxy from Midjourney. So nothing that he had to do but typing in a prompt. I need a nice sci-fi background, whatever, spaceship. And then he placed himself with his camera in front of his
I love that
big
he's sitting
television.
on some pillows.
So on pillows, exactly. So not too much high tech here. Just a nice camera setup that he has. And well, now we can see what he does. He is using, I think most of the time in this case as well, free software like editing software that we see here is DaVinci Resolve. It's very professional and you can have a free version. Download it and has a lot of professional features. Color correction, it's a very good system for color correction. And what we see here is that he is matching his shot, what he recorded in front of his television, sitting on his pillows, and tries to match it as good as he can to the colors and the look and feel of Guardians of the Galaxy. And well, the result in the end is really amazing, in my opinion, right? With this setup, having
I agree.
a shot and a counter shot, right? And if someone would show me the result, I couldn't say like, oh, the one was done in front of a television and sitting on pillows, and the other one was done in a professional studio, right? I really couldn't tell that much of a difference there.
Yeah. Well, and the thing
And
too,
that
when you
is
look at it, go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
So no, it's just to say that, and that, in my opinion, is this big thing today when we come back to the strike and what happens to people. These possibilities are getting easier and easier to handle. And if someone really wants to make a movie, or let's say fake a movie, right? If it's a Star Wars piece or whatever, the possibilities are there and you just have to dig into the technology. But then you have all the possibilities at hand.
Yeah. Well,
no, definitely.
And there's a form of art here in the skills to do the matching. And yes, things are getting easier, but this guy's got, let's face it, this guy's got some skills. I was seeing the way he had his camera set up. He wasn't filming that thing on some not a good camera. Like that looked like a decent camera, but you're looking at the effects here. And when you're talking about Guardians of the Galaxy, again, this is the biggest budget, this cinematic scene that we're looking at in the background, like almost a rack focus is blurred in the background. It's impressive considering, this is shot at home compared to in the big budget studios to where they've got dynamic lighting and they got the cameras at a high level budget. So it's definitely impressive.
100%.
I mean, Chris,
Definitely.
I mean, when you compare this to, I mean, this could have obviously been done with green screen as well. And
Sure.
I mean, do you think he's getting better separation from the background doing it this way, or what would be the advantage to doing it this way?
Well, I think there's, green screen for sure. Green screen is getting more and more also available. You can have simple green screen backgrounds for $100 somehow, including some light and stuff. The problem with green screen has always been that you have first so-called green spill, or if you're using a blue screen, you have blue spill. That means you have a big blue whatever background behind you. You put light on that, and the light is bouncing back to you. So around your fingers, around your hair, you will have the so-called green or blue spill. And that looks like a shimmering whatever kind of color around you. So what you need in this case is a good keying software that is trying to get rid of this green or blue skill, right? So that is a disadvantage of the green screen. The big advantage of the LED background is that you also have light coming from the LED screen. But in this case, this is the light that you want because it is the brightness or darkness of your background that you see in the end product, right? So in this case here, we see that we have some dark parts and some quite bright parts. And that's great because that light will reflect back on his head. So it looks much more that he's inside of this scenery than when he would probably use a flat green or blue screen behind it. And that's why those volume studios, of LED studios, are so frequently used today. You have the composition already, and you have the light that you need for your character in the foreground, right? Everything fits better together.
And he's actually in front of that screen. So, I mean, where he's framed himself is right there in the shot. Where, boom, it's there.
Yeah. He knows exactly what he will get, right?
Yep.
So it's much easier for him to set up. If he's using a green or blue screen, well, he has to cut himself out, and then he can do whatever he wants in the background. But in this case, he directly has a feeling if he's got a control monitor in front of him. Also very good for another actor that would play with him here, or the director.
Right.
So that's why people like those volume or LED studios today.
So, I mean, with the way things are going, traditional LEDs are expensive when you are looking at, interfacing it with Unreal, for example, right? Do you see any way that one could do that with a consumer television?
Well, a lot of people are trying that today, and well, we have to see. What you normally need is a quite big screen in your background. Right. He's just using his head, his chest, the part of that, right? So now imagine you want 2 or 3 people talking together, standing around somewhere in a coffee shop, whatever, and the whole scenery in the background should be covered by an LED. So you need a big screen in the background. And that screen needs to have a really high resolution. So a very high resolution, big LED screen is expensive still. Those very big ones that are used today by Disney, if they are producing something for the Star Wars series that they do today for Disney Plus and so on, they have millions for that. They have millions for those setups, right? Doing that with a good screen, a good television, yeah, a lot more and more people try that, and time is working for them because you can get 8K televisions today. You have even more resolution. Yeah. They get more and more better in color quality and how much brightness they have. And so in this case, I'm quite sure in the next 4 or 5 years, we will see more and more of that. And for small production companies, yeah, it's an opportunity. It's a possibility, definitely.
Right.
Yeah, but you look
Right.
at how much money they look at ultimately how much money they're saving in post to create these backgrounds, especially when you're talking about superhero, sci-fi, going back in period piece to go and rebuild these locations and whatnot. It just makes so much more sense from a budget standpoint with these possibilities.
Sure, definitely.
Well, the
Yeah,
interesting thing that go ahead, Chris.
No, sorry. Go you. Go, John.
No, I was going to say the interesting thing that I see happening here, particularly with products like Mid-Journey, which now has a turbo mode where you can pretty much create images in real time, or it should be able to create images in real time. At least that's the theory. But, so you could technically have a background that changes according to the script and
That's
on a
amazing.
very
That's
low
amazing.
budget. I mean,
That's
just
amazing.
very low budget with some great graphics. So we have under 10 minutes left or 10 minutes left. We did get a bit of a late start today because of technical problems. Anyone that's watching this, please like, follow, and whatever. We have a YouTube channel. We have a
Subscribe
Facebook
is
and
the other.
subscribe. Yeah. We have a Facebook page, a LinkedIn page, a YouTube channel, and we are we will get our Twitter feed going shortly. So all of those things, the virtual film company. But anyway, Chris, we have 2 more videos here. Do you think any one of those would be suitable in closing to make some closing points?
Well, just bring them on and.
Yeah, and
okay, so we have the virtual studio and then the cam calibrator. So let's bring on the next one. I think elaborates on what we've been talking about with virtual studios and
right.
Start this from the beginning.
Yeah.
So,
amazing. Looks great.
Well, why don't we put some sound up for this one, right? So there we go.
Right.
Chris, if you'd like to talk about
Sure.
this.
Yeah. I mean, this shows basically today we can basically say this is a classic setup somehow, right? That's a green screen, as we talked before, and you also see a little bit of that spill of that green on his hair, for example, right? Well, this is a production type that we had for a long time in filmmaking, also in broadcast. I worked with virtual studios for a long time in broadcasting, especially for TV shows and information and news shows and so on and so on. We use that technology a lot. Today, I mean, again, we have generative art. We have tools like Unreal Engine or Unity, for example, and what they do here is having a green screen and some real objects in the foreground where the actor is interacting with, like the seat and a carpet or the books and so on. And now they just need a real camera to shoot the artist, and those cameras are tracked. So there's a tracking technology that just knows where the camera is shooting, where the camera is going to, left, right, up, down. And this data is fed again into a computer, and the computer is rendering the picture that we see in the background in real time today in Unreal Engine, for example, and feeds that back into a system that combines both together, right?
Yeah. I think it was
So,
pretty
yeah.
smart too. They got the dark green jacket over the jacket as well to also just even make the chair pop a little bit.
Definitely. I mean, those are the tricks that you're using when you work with blue or green screen for a long amount of time. You always have to find the right color. You know, if he's wearing something like a complete green shirt, that would look strange somehow. The Invisible Man without, chest or whatever. But anyways, this production technology, again, today, Xemetry is the software that is shown here. It's very, very well affordable, in my opinion. There is a free version for starters, and I think the most expensive version is something like $3,000-4,000, the very high tier. And I think in combination with a camera tracker from Vive, yeah, it's 5,500 or whatever. You have a full setup. You need a camera, you need a green screen, but that is not the big thing. And then you have a full virtual studio setup. And I know that we sold our virtual studio setups 20 years ago for $1 million. So,
Wow.
and it didn't look as good as today with Unreal Engine. There's no
Yeah.
doubt about it, but it's 20 years ago. So
Right.
in this case, yeah, again, we always come back to this price point thing. And I think it's so important to see that those possibilities here are getting more and more affordable. And looking back to Hollywood, where people are on strike, young talents, filmmakers, people that want, to organize themselves, some people that do that on weekends or whatever, they can afford this technology. They need some people that dig into that technology or that technology. And if they want to, they can make films in a very high quality today. So maybe when Hollywood is back on track, they will see that a lot of people adopted and said, well, now let's see what we are doing.
Yeah.
Yes, excellent point, Chris. So any closing comments, Eric, before we shut down for
Yeah,
the day?
there's looking at these technologies and where the world is going, this is powerful. See the tools from a high level to the consumer level of what you can do. And people are, hey, what are we going to do? What's going to be out there? Well, start learning some of these new technologies because this is the future. It's really coming. It's here.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to my green screen suit, which I have sitting in my Amazon cart. And I'm going to try out some spooky objects. So if I hold on to them and move around in my suit.
Okay. I want to see the results. Definitely.
Yeah, I want to see. I want to see these results too. I'm curious to see of how this is going to look. I did some green screening back in the day, and it takes a real skill to make it look good. You can cheat some stuff. It's cool, but there's definitely an art to it.
Yeah, well, there's an art to lighting the green screen, but that, just in closing, I'll say this, that, to me, that's another advantage of creating virtual characters is that one can pick the hex value
100%.
of the green. And, I mean, in the past, when I did green screen, I used to have to play with the buzzing and, I mean, all kinds of parameters to get it right. And it almost never really, I mean, as you said, were issues, but now, I'm finding that all I have to do is click on the green with the eyedropper tool and it all goes away pretty much perfectly. So
Yeah.
it's getting better and better all the time.
Definitely.
So thank you guys for watching, everyone out there. Thank you to
Thank you.
Chris.
Don't forget to like and
Mystery.
subscribe, right, John? Give it to us.
Yeah,
Don't
like
forget
and
to-
subscribe, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and we can also be sent money if you want. We can provide you with a tax-deductible deduction. We're allowed by law, and we also have Carlos Austin Productions doing the video and streaming today. So thank you everyone for watching. We'll be back next week. Well, some of us will be. Mystery is on his way to Burning Man, so Chris and I will be just shooting the whatever and having some good discussions about this and other topics.
I'm
So
sure
we'll
that
be here next Wednesday.
There's plenty of technology to talk about. I'm sure you guys will figure something.
I'm sure we will. So thank you again. Have a great week, everyone. And we've enjoyed the show. We hope you have too. Cheers.
Thanks, guys. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.